The brotherhood has continued to expand. Brit's feet hurt and I'm severely dehydrated. Hello, I'm looking for who asked. So it was the original plan that I we get to the hotel and then I would sort of stay in the room and just edit until I'd finished doing this video. Unfortunately, what I didn't realize was that after having slept in a car the previous night, when I entered a room that had a bed in it that I could sleep in, I just immediately gravitated in that direction. And it wasn't made better by the fact that Power Rangers the movie was playing, and that just gets me in my vibe state. So I'm still editing now at 6 AM. Oh hey, someone's in my hotel. I'm gonna go to the house on the rocks today, and then we're gonna... I wanted to warn you all before we get started that there's going to be some clips in this video for which I'm profoundly swag lacking. And I wanted to make sure you all knew that thanks to our friends at GlassesUSA.com, that will never be the case again. I like these glasses. I think they look cool. I think I'm gonna make them my brand now. And there's nothing that anyone can do to stop me. This week, GlassesUSA.com let me use their virtual try-on tool to try dozens of different curse styles and find the one that was just right for me. GlassesUSA.com is the premier choice for all your bifocal and contact lens-based needs, with 25% off all contact lens brands and over 10,000 prescription glasses and sunglasses, including in-house brands like Muse and Amelia E, and designer brands like Ray-Ban, Oakley, Gucci, and many more, with up to 70% off retail prices. With the introduction of these newer, much cooler glasses, my newer, much cooler sunglasses, kind of like the guy in the Sandman, the villain guy, Brit's newer, much cooler sunglasses. It's been a life-changing experience thanks to GlassesUSA.com, and I want that for you too. So just go ahead and use the link shown on screen now or down in the description and make your Glasses USA dreams come true. And look at that. Look at that eyesore along the road. That could be another lane. What is this person playing at? Hey, why don't you get a car? Europeans be like, check out what I just discovered. I can't believe my expedition has uncovered this. I believe we are at present, what, like 100 miles away from the Black Hills? So the initial plan was that we would start this hike in the Black Hills and then I would film like 2 videos. So it's been raining from the moment we entered the Black Hills. Plans are going to be changing, you know, we're going to have to be sort of, you know, we've been on our toes this entire trip. So we're just going to have to continue to be on our toes. Once the fog lifts, once the clouds lift, then the video can truly begin. And then maybe I'll, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see if things work out. Oh, sorry, am I going straight or left?
Going straight.
Okay. The funny thing is that one of the topics that I was going to be covering was YouTube burnout. And right now, I may be feeling a tiny bit burnt out.
But, John, there's nature.
The nature is beautiful, and I do think that the second I'm actually in among nature for a few hours, I'll immediately feel better. That was the thing. I've said this to like other content creators that struggle with this kind of thing. Honestly, I feel like going out into the complete wilderness where there's just like absolutely nothing for miles and ideally no signal whatsoever, I think it's a really good way to, if not combat YouTube burnout, at least alleviate some of the worst parts of it.
You just have to commit yourself to no internets.
Yeah, right now I have to commit to going up this wet hill in this car that is desperately struggling to survive. Okay, so the rain has let up a little bit, which means that we should be good to film for a while. The basic idea... Hey, a sock!
Found a secret sock. Secret sock on a hike? Secret Easter egg left by weary traveler? Definitely not me.
So I think I wanted to start by explaining something about YouTube Burnout that I think is kind of a common misconception. I think a lot of people might see a channel that uploads all the time and then suddenly burns out and just think like, this is me realizing that I may need to actually stop if I'm going to speak on this hike as we are going uphill. Thinking, well, if you're getting like burnt out because you're uploading so much or whatever, why not just slow down? Slow down the schedule of content to something more manageable. And the thing about YouTube Burnout, at least my experiences of it, is it's less about, oh, I'm doing too much and now I need to slow down. For me personally, the experience was more like realizing that I'd set myself up on this general cycle of a YouTube career. I had these certain lines that I would judge as the success or failure of my channel on any given week. And changing something like that just it isn't as simple as saying, well, I'm going to slow down now. It's more like thinking, well, I'm the one who decided this entire thing. This entire schedule is mine. I'm the one who has decided to live this way, and I'm successful doing it. So what is the problem? And a lot of the time, figuring out what that problem is a process that requires you to just sort of stop with what you're doing. Take some time and figure out what exactly is sort of going on for you, psychologically speaking. And that requires you to take a break from the mill of content production that you've set yourself on, which is really stressful, especially when YouTube is just constantly reminding you that your channel is not doing as well as it used to, not doing as well as it could be doing. You face this thing that requires a bit of introspection, and then everything around you tells you, no, do not introspect. Just make the content. So on a basic level, that's the answer I give if someone were to ask me, like, how did you go from producing like hours of videos every few months to nothing? The goal is to be going down this way, and then we're probably gonna hook a left here, head up towards Black Elk Peak, and then it's kind of a diversion, but it looks like it's only like a short thing up to the top of the peak, at which point we will continue to wrap around, going through Willow Creek and then eventually getting back to where we originally were heading to.
Cool. I did a switch thing before, but didn't really get far with that. But I'm mostly an artiste. You have like those who take it 500% seriously. They go and do like master concept art, or they work for Pixar or whatever. And it's like, if you have that ambition and you have that drive, you go out and you go do that. But art should be about expression. And part of like I see with all these artistes, whether it's YouTube or just like traditional art, is they will just work themselves to the ground and then not enjoy the thing anymore.
It's strange. It's like, you know, there's the thing you want to do, right? There's like what appeals to you, and then there's this other thing that's like this thing where it's like where you're just doing things because you need to do them for some kind of reason. And there's like a contradiction between these two things. But we're gonna have to figure out what exactly those things are. Okay, so it's been a couple hours since the last update. We have some early findings. First of all, it turns out that like nature and wilderness tends to not sort of just spread out and distribute itself, so everyone's got plenty of space to move. So the start of the hike has been extremely narrow, but we kind of also expected that. So the main thing is that there was basically two ways we could have took this trail. It's also gotten significantly colder, that's why I'm wearing gloves right now, and I also have a hat. You might notice there's water on the camera because it is continuing to rain. So I kind of have to continue to keep my thoughts a little bit limited here. If it does start raining, I just have to put the camera away again. But pretty cool sights. Here's a little thing for you. Enjoy this. Do you hear that? I think it's the sound of all the people who ask. Because that really was the gradual progression of things when I first started to experience those feelings of burnout. It was like I was releasing the Space Jam video, which I already was sort of feeling somewhat deflated about. Like it kind of didn't come out exactly how I wanted it to, and it didn't quite get the response I'd have liked. And after that point, I kind of fell off track. And then I was thinking, okay, you know what? I'm going to do a video essay on Cyberpunk 2077. So I spent a month really trying to put something together. I did a full live stream playthrough of Cyberpunk that I think is still available.
Leave us alone.
Whatever.
And all through it, I talk about like this being put to an essay, and you know, if that was to happen, that would be a ways off at this point because I'm very far from that mentally. But it was just things like that. Like I started getting into like punk subcultures as like a topic for a video essay, and then I was kind of trying to connect it to BreadTube, and then I started looking into like the history of psychedelia with leftist politics, and then We're in Hell did a better version of that concept. You know, I just kept expanding and finding new things I wanted to talk about, and then because I kept going back to, and now I need to get back to what I was doing, because again, with every month that passes, I was just getting more and more stressed out about the entire thing, because it was like, okay, couple of months since you put a video out, that's okay. Often channels might take a couple of months between videos. 5 months? Okay, well, it's starting to seem a little strange. And it's like 6 months. Eventually, you've reached a year. And you just kind of reach this point where you have to become dead to it. You have to become dead to this idea that there's these expectations and this specific idea of what you need to be coming back with. Because it isn't really there. For the most part, people just like what they like, I think. One thing I've also been wanting to talk about is the video length thing. This isn't to do with like whether long videos are inherently bad or anything like that. You all know my opinions on that. They're all terrible, every single one of them.
Lengthy media criticism is bad or shallow criticism. That's the argument being made here, because that's what I think. That's what I believe.
It is definitely my view that over the last few years, YouTube has been heavily prioritizing longer videos in terms of like what's recommended to people and what's monetarily rewarded, which I think has led to a lot of creators moving more in that direction. Nothing against those creators. I feel like I've said this elsewhere, but you know, doing big long videos like that often does take like huge amounts of time and effort, even though people do have this common misunderstanding that length automatically equates to effort, which as someone who did animation in the past is always something that's kind of frustrated me. Like, you will not believe how long it takes to produce 5 minutes of like solid animation. but what it does lead to is this culture where unless you're coming out with something that's like this hour-long deep dive, it feels like there's always kind of a certain disappointment to releasing the videos, you know. Nowadays, people tend to get hyped when videos come out that are like these giant things, and like, oh wow, they're really going in on it. Obviously, I was doing long videos myself for a while, and I was comfortable in doing that. But I just think, obviously, there's room for all different styles of content, and sometimes different styles are more interesting at certain times, or for certain topics. The long and short of it was that by that year in, I sort of realized that I just wasn't going to be making content in the style I used to. From now on, I shoot without a script. From now on, I shoot without a script. I shoot without a script. Do you hear that? The weather has cleared up. It looks like there might actually be some sun coming through, so that's neat. I think both Brit and I are kind of ready for like a break in something. I'll say that. Last year, I definitely dealt with like a pretty intense period of depression. And one thing I will note is that thinking of my depression as more like weather than anything else has really helped me a lot. When I have those kinds of feelings, I feel like in retrospect, it's not my responsibility to cut those feelings, to do whatever I can to just kind of pretend those feelings aren't there. Like with the weather, it's more like when those feelings come around, I should know certain things that I can do that will alleviate those feelings, rather than thinking I have like this kind of absolute control over it. Because that's something that people fall into a lot of the time, is they think they'll get to this point where they can have absolute total control of their emotions at all times, and I just think that always ends up falling through. But that's definitely an observation that has helped me over the last few months, at least. Okay, so this is the pitch. This takes place after the events, you know, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4. This is way further down the timeline, okay? This is the establishing idea, and I understand this is going to be controversial among fans, but the Brotherhood of Fallout 4 has continued to expand. And that's across the East Coast. On the West Coast, the New California Republic has continued to expand in turn, taking further regions away from Caesar's Legion and other factions. And as we get closer and closer into the sort of heartland of America, we reach the metaphorical heart of America itself, the Black Hills of South Dakota. Now, anyone who's educated in the history of South Dakota is going to immediately understand how well this setting fits in the Fallout universe. And from a gameplay perspective, it's an amazing fit too. This is this enclosed space surrounded by these iconic plains, and within them is just all sorts of weird oddities and strange places. There's like this stuff, there's all these cool mountain ranges where I'm sure you could find some kind of radioactive monster or something. I haven't even mentioned Deadwood. Deadwood is in the Black Hills. See, there could be a whole cowboy thing going on, but also a bit of a biker thing going on because there's the Sturgis connection. Imagine that. We get some biker aesthetics. I think this is the easiest pitch for any video game that could ever be made. And if you'd like to learn more, stay tuned. Hello, I'm looking for Who Asked. How do you feel, Britt?
Bladder okay, food okay, my back fucking hurts and I want to die.
Folks, I could cry right now. So, we're sort of getting to that precarious period where sunset's happening soon and we're not entirely sure where we're going to camp. So we continued along our route, approaching Black Elk Peak, and look what we found.
Look at this beautiful, pristine...
It's everything I want. It's everything I ever wanted in a campsite. It's like somebody left it here for me, knowing exactly the point. It's just like someone left it here for me. It's just like someone left it, like a trap, like someone was trying to trap me. It's like they're trying to trap me. Okay, so, couple of things. First of all, usually when we go camping, I'll bring like this big foam mat, and we usually put that on the ground for when it's particularly hard on the dirt. And because this is a 2-day hike, I didn't bring that, and I have regretted it tonight. I have slept, I believe, a total of 1 hour. The thing keeps popping up. I also probably should have been more prepared for like sub 30 degree weather. This is like, you know, we did decide to do a hike called Black Elk Peak that involved us going up to the peak of a mountain. So, I've been meaning to say this too. So the movie The Sound of Metal came out a little while ago. Essentially a movie about a musician who suddenly becomes severely hearing impaired, and it sort of struggles with dealing with that and like moving on from it. Now, when the movie came out, even though it had a lot of critical acclaim, it also received a lot of criticism from the hearing impaired community, because the way the story essentially goes is, you know, he's trying desperately to just get whatever surgery he needs to just get back on track with his music career that he was already sort of going along on, and then sort of slowly come to terms with the fact that just trying to live this facsimile of his old life is not really possible, and it's just kind of sad because it's just going to constantly remind him of that old life. Whereas the moment at the end of the film where he takes out his hearing aids that he's just gone through all this trouble just to get, and then finds a kind of peace, and then it's sort of this moment similar to what I've been talking about of learning to live with this thing rather than trying to reject the fact that it exists. I maintain that that story is a very strong allegory for the kinds of mental health issues that I've been describing. I just wish they hadn't used hearing impairment as the specific topic. I really do understand those specific criticisms. I guess it's just something that viscerally makes more sense to people, which is why I use it as an example now. We also left these socks out overnight so they could dry. What the hell, they're still wet. Nature works in mysterious ways. I call this the cowboy sandwich. It's hickory smoked fake meat. We got some Wisconsin cheese curds in here that are like with sun-dried tomatoes on them. Then I've got some jalapeno peppers, and then we'll go with some mayo and some spicy mustard. And that is the cowboy sandwich, and I highly recommend it.
Hang on.
Oh no! I'm gonna fall.
I just cannot for the life of me figure out where I parked my car.
I think for the people that maybe click on this video just because they themselves are thinking of becoming YouTubers or online content creators in some kind of way, and just want the perspective of someone who's kind of been through it, ultimately, and it's kind of generic advice, it will all come down to what makes you feel the most happy and content in terms of what you're making. YouTube is not necessarily going to reward you for doing a good job. Your viewers are not necessarily going to reward you for doing a good job. Sometimes you'll be rewarded for something that you think was a bad job. There's really no connection, in my opinion, between the success of a channel and how contented you'll end up being with what you're actually doing. And if you're getting into this because you do think it'll be an easy way to make lots of money, it won't be. Channels like mine that just sort of take off are extremely rare, require a complete breakdown of any work-life balance. There are so many more sensible career choices you can make if you just want to make money than going to YouTube. But with that said, I'm obviously not going to say don't do it, because you know, there's good sides of it too. If you really are happy with the things you're doing, it is a way to get your work out there, even if it's not the most reliable. At the end of the day, burnout is always going to be, for me, a two-sided coin. At the same time that it is a kind of quitting, giving up of what I was doing, it's also telling myself that I have to take a next step and then figuring out what that next step is going to be. I like to think I've learned my lesson. Make sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. I also say that if I weren't to have gone through this whole process with the channel, I, as a person, would have not developed nearly as much, in my opinion. I think I've really grown as a person since I started my channel, mainly because I've really been forced to challenge myself in a lot of ways, and do things that I wouldn't necessarily have been comfortable with a few years ago, like rambling into a camera. It can be a growing experience, it can be all sorts of stuff. It's really just a matter of what you're putting into it, I guess. I would also say, just as far as general advice, try and make sure the audio sounds okay. Try not to have the camera out of focus too often. Don't say any words in a script when you don't know how to pronounce the word. Have you ever lied, stolen, hated someone? God judges the heart and sees hatred as murder, lust as adultery, and covetousness as idolatry. Have you ever had any bad thoughts? So, it's a religion for nobody. I think I'm just always going to be skeptical of religions where the basic idea is, by default, you're bad, but there's a special guy who says it's okay as long as you say he's good.
Oh my god, it's Herobrine.
My Q angle, Jack.
Folks, I'm sorry. We're not going to be able to make it back. Our path has been blocked, and I don't even know how it's gonna take us hours to reroute. So I'm sorry, but there's not going to be any videos anymore on the channel. So we're about an hour away from finishing the trail. Brit's feet hurt and I'm severely dehydrated. And there was a couple of things that were sort of running through my mind that I wanted to go over that I feel like I didn't touch on the majority of the hike. Let me just make sure to adjust the focus here so that you can get both angles of this part of the video. I hope you enjoy that. I'm not taking the sunglasses off. So first of all, I hope people get that when I talk about YouTube burnout, as I have for most of this video, I'm really just talking about career burnout, which is applicable to many jobs, not just people who are YouTubers or influencers or social media people or whatever. And I really hope that people that maybe are in other careers still get something out of this video, because I do think a lot of the same anxieties and issues persist through any kind of interaction with capitalism. And I also wanted to clarify, second of all, that when I talk about the fact that you ultimately have to do the things that make you feel happy and contented, just want to be clear that I'm not talking about this like follow your bliss thing where, oh, just do what makes you happy and everything will work out. Obviously, I understand that there are material concerns that people have and that are going to play into the decisions they make in their lives. That's why what I was saying earlier in the video, if you're in financial need and then you're getting into YouTube to make money, I wouldn't recommend that, because I think it's just so unreliable for that. Even when you feel like you're going to do all the right things and make all the right content for people, sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. But again, there are more reliable professions, but that's not what I did, and I'm a dumbass, and it worked out. So you kind of don't know. It is basically a lottery. That's enough of me rambling. We'll now return to what you really wanted to watch in this video. More B-roll footage of the woods. Almost forgot my review of the other Planet Fitness in South Dakota, the Rapid City Planet Fitness.
This is my review of the showers in the men's locker room at the Sioux Falls Planet Fitness.
Let me tell you, that place was something else. I didn't go to the Rapid City Planet Fitness. I didn't. We ended up going a different way. I didn't go to that. I was lying before. I also wanted to wait until we were well over the milestone to say this, but thank you all for 200,000 subscribers. It feels like a surreal number to actually have come out of my mouth. I just want to thank you all for your endless support over the last few years. I was really afraid of the channel coming back and how that would affect subscribers and engagement and things like that, and it's been a really fun experience, and I hope you will look forward to what's coming up soon. Probably be some Q&As, things like that. It's been a really great experience, and it's been really great to see all the positive engagement on the Cards 2 Eugenics video.
Nature. 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 Nature.